This episode of Accelerate is brought to you in part by Discover.org. Looking to close 4 times as many deals in half the time? Discover.org's industry-leading, human-verified sales intelligence gives you all of the data and insights like direct dials, org charts, planned projects, verified emails, and executive moves you need to stop wasting time on research and spend more time talking to the right decision-maker with the right message at the right time. Their team of 250-plus sales researchers do all the work so that you don't have to. 2,500 companies are already using Discover.org to win more deals. So check them out at www.discoverorg.com. That's www.discoverorg.com. It's time to accelerate. Hey friends, this is Andy. Welcome to episode 588 of Accelerate, the sales podcast of record. Joining me as my guest today is Keith Ferrazzi. Keith is the founder and chairman of Ferrazzi Greenlight and the author of a couple of really great books, New York Times bestsellers. First one titled Never Eat Alone, and the subtitle, And Other Secrets to Success, One Relationship at a Time. And the next book is Who's Got Your Back? The breakthrough program to build deep, trusting relationships that create success and won't let you fail. Both very excellent books. And they're about relationships, about connecting with other people. I mean, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to start with Keith's amazing and simple formula for success in life. And it's very simple. This formula of success in life is equal to the people you meet plus what you create together. So success in life is equal to the people you meet plus what you create together. And we're going to dive deep into this idea of the critical difference between networking and connecting and talk about how the connecting and the networks that we develop really become the foundation for our success. So if you'd like to see the show notes for this episode, go to andypaul.com/588. Before we talk with Keith, let me remind you that today's show is brought to you in part by our friends at Discover.org. The Discover.org platform is a game changer for sales and marketing and staffing professionals. The feature-rich sales intelligence platform is supported by over 250-plus researchers who continually update contact data and provide account-specific insights to help sales and marketing teams break ahead of the pack. So see the product live at discoverorg.com/schedule-demo. Okay, just a brief announcement also for listeners who are sales leaders, vice presidents of sales of high-growth SaaS companies. As I've mentioned previously, with a partner, Jocko Vanderkoy, launching a 12-month learning, coaching, mastermind program for VPs of sales of high-growth SaaS companies that help you transform. This program will help you transform how you sell, how you scale, and how you develop the capabilities of your team to crush your goals. So if that's a requirement that you have, then this is going to be the program for you. So to learn more, go to our website. It is SaaSlam.com. That's SaaSlam.com. Or you can contact me at andypaul.com if you have any questions. All right. Make sure you check that out. Let's jump into it now with my guest, Keith Ferrazzi. Keith, welcome to Accelerate.
Thanks, Andy. Looking forward to this.
Hey, my pleasure to have you here on the show. So I open with a standard question that I ask all my guests is, in your opinion, what's the single biggest challenge facing salespeople today?
Well, I mean, I could go into all the macro kind of answers around, speed of product acceleration and the complexity of the sale and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
right?
don't get me started on that one. But yeah, go ahead.
But that's pretty ubiquitous. I'll tell you what it is. If I were, we're all in sales.
Sure.
But if I were at a large corporation doing sales today, I would say the biggest challenge is loneliness. And that's their own fault, our own fault. One cannot sell alone today. And the principle of sales is a team sport. And the problem is that not enough salespeople know how to be leaders of their sales team and how to be collaborators with their sales team, how to elevate all of the critical individuals to get the sale to occur inside and outside the company is the job of sales.
Exactly.
And until sales recognize this, that they are the leader of a tribe of the prospect and the client and the vendors that are supporting and our own folks and back into the value chain, until we understand that and we become that leader, then it's going to be very lonely.
Love that answer. Love that answer. So how do we what's the first step to curing the loneliness? I mean, it seems like there's so much in sales these days that sort of legislates against that, right? I mean, there's this increased focus on activity metrics and less about the quality of the connection you develop with a prospect.
You can get me started about systems support of sales, and you can get me started with people who have created methodologies around selling that claim that relationships are the old guard way of selling, and that things like Challenger and others are the new way. And I'd be happy to spend a half an hour just talking about the PR and marketing spin that is, as opposed to the truth that is. At the reality, there's an awakening of every one of us trying to be of service to our clients and trying to be of service to the organization that we represent. And that is that we are facilitators of creating value. And it starts there. It starts with a mindset that says we actually give a damn about people, their jobs, their careers. We give a damn about creating value for the people that are around us, that we're sitting in front of us as our clients and prospects and are supporting us behind. And that if a sales rep understands that their job is to create value for people, then it will be a massive breakthrough. Because then at that stage, it's now only about putting a plan around it. In my book, Never Eat Alone, I talk about the criticality of a relationship action plan. Mm-hmm. And at British Telecom many years ago, our consulting practice created over $2 billion of new pipeline in 92 key strategic accounts around the world by coaching them to have a stronger, more meticulous relationship action plan at each of their key strategic accounts. That was documented and published, which is why I can give you those numbers and that client name. We've also done that with the top 100 strategic accounts for one of the largest, most respected consultancies in the world. And we created the same kind of return. And what one has to awaken to at the beginning is that our job is to create value with people. And then the question is, which people and what kind of value? And then we start getting into engineering, because we only have so much time, and we have to make sure that the value is commensurate to what matters to the individual and what matters to the shared growth of that particular company and the market circumstances. Now all of a sudden you get complex, right, as to figure out what value we're creating. But if I'm trying to sell IT services to a consumer packaged goods company, the first thing I need to ask myself is, at the director level where I'm having my first conversation, how do I make their career successful? And making their career successful means helping them be the evangelists of a solution that they typically wouldn't buy, but that if they did try to advocate for to their boss, they would look exceptional. Because frankly, I've been looking at the market needs of that consumer packaged goods company and the erosion of their value in the retail channel. And my solution is going to make their boss look like a hero, because their boss, somewhere still maybe a VP of technology, may not even be listening to their damn CEO talk about the strategic importance of the challenges that consumer packaged goods company is facing.
Right.
But I could make them both more successful. Now, the question is, have I earned the permission to shift the way they buy? Have I earned the permission to shift how they perceive their role? And have I earned the permission to give them enough chutzpah to sell up the food chain in their organization, a fundamentally different set of attributes of what we have to offer? And how do you earn that permission? Relationship earns the permission. A relationship earns the permission to be able to tell your story. Relationship is the permission to forgive. When you stub your toe, of course, in these large systems implementations, there will be that need to forgive as well. And sometimes you're even going to have to go around that director that didn't listen to your message and go to his boss directly. And we know that how difficult that is. And it depends upon the depth of relationship you have with the director. You might need that forgiveness even for that kind of currency.
Right.
I mean, I was going on too long. I'll pause. But
no, that was good stuff. Well, I mean, I think that going back to the British Telecom is how'd you get people to begin to perceive what their role is in building a relationship different, rather than just, a quid pro quo, but being of service orientation, because this word is tossed around a lot, right? That we have to serve first, but hey, quite frankly, most people aren't doing it.
Well, I create a sort of a pyramid of value that a sales rep needs to navigate through. There's a social value you bring to the table, and that's pretty old guard sales stuff of being enjoyable to be with, charismatic, all those things that stereotypical sales reps offer. It's frankly the least valuable currency you have to bring to the table. Right. The second level is obviously your product is good, but unfortunately your product's more and more commoditized than ever before. The value you've got to create with the person sitting in front of you is the value that person recognized that you care about their success and that you are going to co-create solutions that and execute against those solutions that will make them personally successful. Now, the question is, do you even know how they view success? Are they looking for the promotion, or are they looking to, bide their time until they're getting ready to retire? What do they appreciate? How do they want to be appreciated? Where are their relationships inside of the organization, and how could you even manifest and help them navigate better relationships inside the organization if they're not currently managing their career? If they want to get the hell out of that company, how are you and the rest of your clients potentially a ticket for them to have a broader network than they currently have, so that they'll find access and meet people that they could find their next job with? Right. Do they consider you the conduit to their network? These are the questions that we have to start asking when we start asking value, but it's very much what I would call a combination of personal, professional value. Now, if all we focus on is the value prop of the solution we're bringing to the table for the company, unfortunately, the reality is that is often secondary, or at least tied for first, against an individual's own personal value that they're getting out of acquiring this particular product or solution. Now, if everything's equal, the way that they will gain value out of buying your solution is winding you down on price. But if you can add enough value and awaken this person that you're actually a conduit to a much bigger degree of value for themselves in their company, then we all of a sudden open up a whole different dialogue that has less to do with price.
Well, I think one of the problems then with salespeople is maybe this lack of confidence or something that like I know when people go out and network and you talk about the value is, as they say, they don't think they have anything of value to offer other than their product.
You said, one of the problems with salespeople, one of the problems with all of us is too many of us don't believe we have enough to offer. We don't deserve to be in the room. It's interesting. I do feel there's a direct correlation to those who have overcompensated with backslapping charisma that are sometimes called sales reps. Right. And that level of insecurity actually puts them in a box, in a glass box that they can't break out of, because they're using all these song and dances they've learned to use all their life. And the thing that they're often afraid to use is the sit down, quiet question of what does value look like? And the humility to recognize you probably can't bring it all yourself, and you need to start bringing partners in from your own organization and others. And really, the art of the facilitator is the art of the salesman in the future. The art of the facilitator bringing the right assets to the table, recognizing that they have to, of course, be technically proficient and adept at bringing the right parts of the solution. But a humble facilitator is better than somebody who knows all the answers. Now, you've got to incite intrigue in the sales process.
Sure.
But again, you can often do that by bringing in partners in the process.
I was going to say this idea about being confident in the value that you have something of value to offer is part of the fascinating part of your own story is, as you describe it in your book, Never Eat Alone, is that as a kid you were reaching out to build relationships with people, with you didn't have a professional background or anything, and led to where you are today.
Well, that was so much of that was out of desperation. I often joke that I learned early on not to be jealous of my rich friends who went to school with me when I was just a poor kid, that they had nepotism. I could create my own nepotism by building the relationship that made individuals care enough about me to give me a leg up, to open up doors and opportunities through authentic relationships that I would build. And many people read Never Eat Alone and they're like, holy cow, it's one of the most driven, ambitious kids I've ever come across. And what they don't recognize, and some of them do, is that there was a lot of fear and anxiety of that young man who got all of that success early on. And it did spur my success to a great extent. What I've learned over time is the more authentic that my relationships are, the less panic-stricken and frenetic they have to be, or they can be, and the more authentic and generous and calming and even grounded and spiritual, for that matter. Some of my dearest friends in the world are the people that I transact business with today. And I guess they always have been, but I think I'm getting more in abundance as I chill out in life. Let me come back.
Sure.
For those who haven't read Never Eat Alone, I'll give them a thumbnail sketch of the book. And every chapter is a very distinct set of practices that you can use if you've been told that networking is important to you. But what's more important is the rich storytelling that sort of hooks you in. But the overall message is to live an abundant life. Everything you want to hope and achieve is going to be done through people. And in sales, it's not just clients and prospects, it's vendors who are referral partners. Some of my greatest leads in business have come from headhunters who I have just become great relationships with. And then when they placed somebody into a new job, they referred me. Now, of course, I've developed a lot of currency with these people in advance as well. So and also back in my own organization, building the relationships inside of your company. Back at Deloitte, I had so many people that had my back that enabled my success because of those strong relationships. So relationships are the conduit to your success. Therefore, build them in abundance, but in abundance with meticulous planning, because you can't just go out and shotgun. There's some room for serendipity, no question. There's some room, but if you really have a goal in mind, you got to be planned about the relationships, and therefore relationship action planning is something we teach. Right. And how do you actually build that strategic alignment of your goals to your relationships? And then how do you then be deeply generous? Probably the biggest lesson that people walk away from after reading Never Eat Alone is how to be generous. Generous of spirit, generous of professionally, generous personally. How do you be generous? And by being generous, you gain people desire to spend time with you, and then you follow that with authenticity and even humility and vulnerability that connects you in an accelerated fashion with somebody. And then with that, you solidify the relationship, which then yields, as I bridge into my second book, Who's Got Your Back, which yields a greater degree of people who won't let you fail, people who will be candid, butt-kicking accountability, individuals who really are working to elevate collectively with each other.
Well, so people listen to this, they hear networking, and as you explained, there's a real difference between networking and connecting. I mean, oftentimes, especially in sales, we see this all the time. People brag about the size. What they used to brag about the size of the Rolodex, but now, the number of contacts they have, but it doesn't mention anything about the number of relationships they have.
Well, we came up a long time ago with a metric of a relational quality and a business impact score, which in our coaching of sales forces, we can put a systematized metric around the strength of the relationship and the importance of it. So that if, if I said to you on a scale of -1 to 3, what's the strength of the most important, with a weighted average of the most important business relationships to your growth as a company, what would they be today if you pushed your sales reps to identify the 10 most important people that would grow the company? What's the strength of our relationships? And most companies are just above a 1. From a -1 to a 3, the aggregated score is just above a 1. Now, if you shifted that a half a point, it would make a big difference.
Sure.
And that is often, the basis of a lot of our work in coaching sales organizations.
Yeah, I thought the interesting part with, well, among the many interesting parts is you talked about the vulnerability before, and that as much about building a relationship is being able to ask for help as well as serving.
Right.
So tell us what you mean by that.
Well, it's one of the chapters in the book where we say, at some point when there's a strong enough relationship, as you would have with a dear friend, et cetera, that being vulnerable enough to ask somebody for help actually solidifies the relationship. We're not talking about going up to a stranger and asking for $20 on the street. That's probably not a great relationship opener. But once the relationship is built, too many people, put up walls around themselves, even though the relationship is already there. So how do you begin to use and leverage authentic humility to open that relationship even deeper? So that's what I think that's what that chapter is referring to in the book.
Well, I think salespeople suddenly think about that as saying, well, yeah, Andy and Keith, I mean, how do I ask a prospect for help?
Well, it depends on the strength of. Well, first of all, if you can accelerate the relationship quickly, I have gotten to the stage where I've literally just asked the question, like, if you can get that person to believe that you really want to help them, you ask them, what's the fastest path to help you? I was on a sales call earlier today where I literally asked the question. I said, look, I mean, I get that your instinct tells you I could make a difference here. How do I make the fastest difference? Help me see the path to making the fastest difference here. But I had clearly connected with that individual. I'd done my homework. I'd done I'd spoken to people that knew this individual. I spoke to their admin. I had a sense of what this person wanted to achieve. I opened vulnerably, talking about some struggles and challenges that I had experienced on a more personal basis that just happened this weekend as we were sort of doing small talk. I don't do small talk. I only do deep talk. So that gave me ultimately the permission to, ask for help, even in the sale.
So when you say you don't do small talk, you only do deep talk, I think I know what you mean, but give us an example.
Well, I'll start a call and I will always find a way to think about something I've done recently that opens up my life to somebody. I had an amazing weekend with my foster son. And, I might, on a phone call or in a meeting, just say, wow, I just had an amazing weekend with my foster son. It hasn't always been easy. This is actually his first year. He acknowledged Father's Day, which made it all that much richer. Do you have kids? Right? So It's like, that's the way I would have the dialogue, but I'm authentically being open and creating empathy. Empathy is the bridge to a relationship,
right?
Which is the foundation of any co-creation that you need. Empathy is crucial, and you can lead it, or you can hope that it happens over a period of time.
Well, I think that's so ironic because I agree with you 100%. There's increasing sort of swaths of the sales ecosystem, if you will, writers, so on, saying, yeah, prospects just don't have time for small talk. And it's like, it's destructive, right?
You're not compelling it. Look,
right?
If you're on the phone dialing, listen, if somebody calls me up, on telesales, that's not going to be my first opening. Although I have to say there's the old, chihuahua in the background. If you hear something like that, you should jump on that right away on the phone call because, it's like, I hear your dog barking in the background. I've got a such and such.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, I'm not an expert in telesales, but my friend Tony Shea is, from Zappos.
Right.
And he's all about leading with the authenticity. They celebrate the ability to keep a caller on the line for the longest period of time, because that shows that they're developing the relationship.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, like I said, so many parts of the sales sector are so focused on the metrics and how many calls do we make, and they don't give the reps the room to be authentic, right? To establish those types of connections that they need to build the relationships.
Exactly.
So, I love what you're talking about in the book about how your networks have replaced the loyalty and security once offered by companies. Explain what you mean by that.
Trying to remember the reference.
Well, it's just about the connecting through the networks we develop. That's what we can rely on, right? There's no.
Yeah, I was just going to say. I mean, I'm not even. Maybe I'm just blind enough to the point, which is curious to others, but obvious to me. But there is no value. There is no. I mean, McKinsey does not have a relationship with Procter and Gamble. Deloitte does not have a relationship with Hewlett Packard. Somebody at each of those companies have relationships with each other, and that makes up the fabric of whether there is loyalty. I hear this all the time. It's like, what is the relationship that we have with XYZ company? And then all of a sudden I start hearing about what share do we have? What growth rate do we have? And I'm like, no, it's not my question. What is the advocacy that we have inside of the company? Who is that advocate? How are they navigating the opportunity management for us? What is the RQ, the relational quality score? Are they advocates, or where are they? And those are the conversations I like to have, with folks. Tell me what you think is. What do you think your listeners are thinking right now? What do they need more of from the last 5 minutes or so of our discussion?
Well, I think that people struggle with this whole thing of just connecting with another person. Yeah, it's not. People want to put it up to a generational thing. I don't think it's a generational thing. I think it's this. It's this moment when they actually have to connect to a person. They want to default to talking about a product, or they want to default to something that's about them as opposed to the other person.
I'm just looking at my calendar right here. It's open on the computer that I'm on, and I see a call I've got this afternoon. And this is a woman that is one of the top leaders of a major company that I'd like to do business with, and it is it's a 15-minute touch base. Now, there's a lot of pressure on a 15-minute touch base to pitch something. But I would she's gone through a lot. She's had a lot of success. I want to make sure that I am celebrating what she's done. I want to make sure that I am checking in on what I know about her from past conversations. And I would like to make sure that she knows I really give a damn, and I do, about where she stands in her career and where she's going. Now, that's important. I will, as a result of that, my suspicion is she's going to ask me what's going on with the company. And that will give me the opening to have the dialogue. Mm-hmm. But, I don't want to be the person that uses that 15 minutes only to try to transact.
So this is one of the people in your network. And so you talk in the book, you've got 10,000 plus people in your network, which, sobering to somebody like me, that's maybe us.
That was 10 years ago.
That was 10 years ago, right? So how many of those can you have that type of conversation with?
Everybody. Because the technology allows ubiquitous access to information about these people. I can look up Facebook. I can look up all of these things. I could get a very rich sense of who this person is before I jump on the phone.
Well, let me rephrase the question. How many of those 10,000 have you had conversations with?
Everybody that I have spoken to among that 10,000. Some of those 10,000 names, I might have had only one conversation with.
Sure.
And imagine that they would remember it as being relatively authentic. Although I have to say, I haven't been I'm not perfect. I don't live in that level of grounded authenticity all the time. Sometimes I need to close a quarter.
Sure.
Right? Sometimes I'm over my skis, and I've started a tech company, and my primary consulting business is falling behind in its pipeline, and I need to get some stuff sold. And unfortunately, some of those times I get scared, and I don't act my authentic self. But it always comes back to remind me what I need to do, because when I do it, the universe rewards that behavior with a faster path to revenue.
Yeah, and the question was around this angle is, again, see so many people build large social networks with people they've never met, talk to, just connect. Yeah. And I think they get fooled by thinking that, I can reach out to any of those people because we're quote unquote connected. And
I'll maybe use this as a final point.
Sure.
If you build your brand, then anybody that's read Never Eat Alone, I've probably got some permission to have a conversation with them. Mm-hmm. And so, you need to spend time building your brand. You need to write. You need to be out there in the marketplace. If you want to be a thought leader, if you want to be a great sales rep, you got to be a thought leader.
I agree.
And so you need to invest in building that brand so that you gain some currency beyond the connection. But you're right. I mean, just because someone's linked to me at LinkedIn doesn't mean that I have any permission. You got to build that. You got to earn that. You got to be generous. You got to be planned. You got to be proficient. You got to be targeted. You got to be accountable. And ultimately, my high recommendation is you make it a joyful journey. That if too many sales reps aren't having fun, they're out there schlepping through. And if you really embrace this methodology, you'll embrace a heartfelt interdependency with the people you work with and the people that you sell to, such that they are real relationships, not just people you're using. And I had spent too much time in my life, even though I was good at it and might not have always been recognizable. I've spent too much time in my life building relationships for the sake of transaction, scarcity. And I'll leave that as my final comment. I think you can find more joy in your life and more abundance through leading with relationships.
Excellent. Good. Well, people, those listening, make sure you do go out and read Keith's book, or both books, but start with Never Eat Alone. Keith, tell people they can find out more about you and connect with you.
Yeah, pretty easy. KeithFerrazzi.com. You try it a couple of times. Google will help you find me.
All right. Yeah, that's 2 R's and 2 Z's.
Yep, it is. F-E-R-A-Z-Z-I. Andy, thank you so much. I appreciate the connection and for your great audience.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate you joining the show. And friends, thank you for spending this time with me today. Remember, come back, join us again for another great episode of Accelerate. Until then, this is Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone.